Hello, and welcome back to another week of the DP World Tour Picks and Bets Show. Skylar Hoke here with Tom Jacobs. Tom, how are we doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I'd be a lot better if our picks hung around, right? I think that was the issue. Takahiro Hitachi did not break the internet and win the golf tournament for us, although he did have two good rounds, so that was fine. Um, but no, it was Sam Bairstow is just. I can't figure it. Like, is he just not quite good enough yet? Like, is this just going to be a season of like consolidation and getting used to the tour, and then next year he kicks on? I don't know. I was so positive about him a week ago, and then I just feel so drained by his performance over the last 2 days. Maybe it's just, like he's already been in contention, right, where he should have won a few weeks ago, and now he's done this. Like, I mean, he's got all the tools to be really good, but he just looked terrible on the broadcast. Like on Sunday, he just didn't look good. I mean, I was up at 5 a.m. watching it, and I mean, maybe it was just the fact I was up at 5 a.m. Didn't really want to watching golf at that time, but like he was just so disappointing. So that, from that respect, like that was disappointing. Um, yeah, it was a good. Like, I feel like we were on the right guys. Like it just didn't unfold our way. So Houghton was disappointing on Sunday. Was right there. So who knows? It's another new week. What I probably found underrated, Sky. I didn't really consider this until I was making my selections today. Like, I think it's a really beneficial for the tour and the players that we've got these events back to back. I don't know that they've done that before, like China to Japan. They probably have, and I just don't remember it. But like, it feels like a really good bit of organisation for a tour that's really struggling in that department so far.
Yeah, I love it. I love the little swing that we have. Of course, it is followed by another break that they will do from there. But I thought we were bang on last week. I mean, I think it's a frustrating weekend having three guys really pretty much be around in the places and only have one of them, Yuta Seguria, end up finishing inside the top 10 as a long shot, which was, awesome to come through with. But it also gave me, I don't know, from the winner standpoint, and even those kind of contending overall. I mean, if you look at what we have seen out of Katsumura or Katsuragara Gawa.
Yeah.
He was somebody on the Corn Ferry Tour that popped a little bit, made some cuts in majors, and like then showed early life a little bit this year. You come to a DP World Tour event where you have the guys. I mean, I guess Pavan and Bezaden who were there. Now you come to another one where those guys aren't there. The odds-on favorite is Sebastian Soderberg, who I mean, we pretty much kind of have that script of kind of what could happen with him, time and time again. It just shows that the DP World Tour's current status, it can be taken by some talented guys from other tours. So as much as I'm frustrated that spots don't go to those that are getting through Q school, I don't mind that they're taken from the other tours. I just wish there was better ways to get some of the guys that we want to see in the tour. But man, I mean, there's guys that are coming off, the China tour this week that I'm pretty intrigued on too, are playing well on the Asian tour, and they have their shots with the talent that Katsuragawa has. I mean, he could be a PGA Tour player. You know what I mean? Like he really could be pretty quickly. So, it's exciting for that manner. And Brad and Michael were both on last week, which is a sharp alignment by them, knowing there's so much talent in that guy's game. And now we have another week where there's opportunities once again.
I think the real thing you sort of hit on there, right, is like because of I want to call it weaker, like the lack of depth that we're seeing in these fields at the moment in terms of DP World Tour, right? Like there is just those ample opportunities. I mean, this time around, I think it was only one inside the top 11 last year in terms of Japanese players in that event, right? Well, then this time around, we've had Katsugara win it, Kinoshita third, Kawamura seventh, Nakajima and Shugo Mahira 10th, Kanaya 10th, and Sato 17th. So, a really good representation from the home players this time around. Now, what's that, 5 inside the top 10? I don't expect that this week, because I don't think the China tour is as strong as Japan, right? Like, I think that's fairly obvious. Maybe goes without saying, and you're kind of new to it. But that doesn't mean that I don't think anything can break through. Like, I think there's definitely an opportunity for people that are good at the course. There's definitely, we'll come on to one later I think we'll both align on. But, like, I think the nail that you hit on the head is that there is just more opportunity this time around. Like, it's just a very clear pathway. Like, if you are comfortable, you've played the tour before maybe, and you're not sort of frozen by the moment, then I think it's a really good time to be, playing your best golf. So people that came over from Japan last week should be in good stead. I think it's, good bit of organisation this time around. But yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, and I guess what I would love to solve that issue is some type of Corn Ferry-esque rollover of reshuffles
Yeah.
and good finishes playing the next week. Like, the Japanese golfers that finish inside the top 10, they should get their shot again to keep it rolling. You know what I mean? Win or go home is tough in those spots where, as long as you top 25 on the Corn Ferry Tour, you're getting in next week. Like, that type of reorganization could make just so much more sense for them getting some of the more talented golfers that are on the circuits out there. So I can bang my head against the wall on that every single show that we do, but
Yep.
I think it's important to come home where we are now going this week. So this is an event that I loved on the DP World Tour for years. Vivid memories, where we've seen this was like early DFS days for the European Tour that we got to have Levy in competition, Bjork. I remember playing like Bjork and these Seungshun Han. I remember playing like guys in which that you got to play in DFS for the first time. Just was a lot of fun on this type of event that really demanded a lot of ball striking in my eyes when we came to this course. Now, the only difference in which we have it this year than previous years is a name change, right? Hidden Grace Golf Club is now the name of the course. Any tidbits for you that you're looking at this week?
Yeah, it's one of those ones where I don't vividly remember what type of player won here in the past, right? Like, I remember that Wiesberger winning here and beating Tommy Fleetwood. That suggests it's a ball striker's paradise. But I think Alexander Levy's won here in the past, and he's a different type of player. So I don't think there's any one skill set that I'd prefer this week, rather than last week where I thought more towards accuracy. I think this week you can be a little bit sort of more wayward off the tee and rely on power. I think there's going to be rain in the forecast, so that would soften it up as well. But yeah, I think it's more just kind of like set up the amount of opportunities you need to make birdie. Like, I think as long as it doesn't really matter how you do it, I think anyone can kind of prosper. I would look at people that have played well in Asia in general, and I'd look at people that have played well in China, maybe on the Challenge Tour as well, because we've had some events over there in recent years. But no, there wasn't any one sort of standout statistic for me. I guess it's just you just want people to set up enough birdie opportunities.
Yeah, I think that's super fair. I mean, I do, if I'm leaning, like, it does seem to be a power type of way, but we've absolutely seen other guys, do very well. And one we'll talk about later that, has awesome course history from the China Tour specifically, that, is playing here. And for those that remember, it's Genzon, Genzon was the name of the golf course previously, but it has been continued to be played on the China Tour. Didn't Miko win this too in the past, or yeah,
Yes.
Kahornen, right? Yeah, he did. So again, somebody who maybe is more of the plotter or like accuracy, precision type. So I think the conversation definitely goes to the top of the leaderboard, right? Or top of the odds board. Soderberg, Smith, McKibben, followed up by Yannick Paul, who, if we were disappointed by Sam Bairstow's weekend, Yannick Paul's Sunday was as bad as seen from somebody that odds in a little bit of time, But I think just the question is, are you fearful of any of these guys?
Not the ones you mentioned. I think that McKibben would make the most sense. I just feel like the other guys have been there now and chucked it away a little bit, whereas he hasn't. As soon as Soderberg hit the front yesterday, he was terrible. I think he did the same on Saturday. He kind of got himself in front and then went backwards. But he did rally back and finish a really strong second behind Katsugara. So, back-to-back second place finishes, it's very hard to kind of look past someone like that. But, Jordan Smith's not doing it. Yannick Paul was terrible over the weekend. I was a little bit disappointed with Houghton Lee on Sunday. So, No, not necessarily worried. I would say if I was going to pick one, it'd be McKibben, but no strong sentiment.
Yeah, I'm not scared, and I mean that doesn't mean they can't win in that manner, but it's just a different like fearfulness of Soderbergh. Like I said, he is. We mentioned it last week. Like we could have easily bet him at 33s and cashed
Yeah.
in each way and felt confident in that, and that could have been the selection. I rarely play for each ways at that price, Like I guess I pretty much did that with.
Like if you were to drop an alien on Earth right now and just say pick a golfer, you'd pick him, wouldn't you? Right, like, which is why
Yeah,
he's 16-1, right? So it makes perfect sense to go back to him. I just from an eye test point of view, this is a guy that I spent years backing at like 80, 1900s one because he'd beaten Rory McIlroy before, and now he's 16-1 favourite, and the most recent evidence suggests that he can't win. So yeah, I would not feel confident in any way, shape, or form to bet him at 16-1, but he definitely deserves to be right near the top.
what I want is him to play well this week because he is, I think, 98th in the world, and PGA Championship qualification, I believe, is after this week. I would like him in a major, like a deep top 40 type of thing for Soderbergh with this form. I could like that, a decent bit. But I'm sticking with the one golfer for us whose odds chopped pretty much in thirds. If you got the good opening numbers, right? Hao Tong Lee in his home country now is 35-1. It's a big task. It's something where, I mean, being in your home country, winning an event that we saw how emotional when he won last time. Like that's a lot of weight probably on his own shoulders. If you look at his history here, previously outside of just the um, big events, he has two top three finishes as well. And I mean, we just look at, I mean, second and fourth, I guess, in 2015 and 2019, and then playing it on the China Tour, playing well. He did what you expected him to do last week, right? I mean, he hit his irons decently. The driver didn't take him too much out of contention. Sunday just didn't really go his way overall, and fell back substantially. But that was a very tight leaderboard that it was probably easier than most weeks to play par golf, and you were going to drop 15 spots on the leaderboard without a doubt. That's kind of the way it went in Sunday.
That was exactly that. Like him parring around on Sundays previously this season have kept him in the hunt, and he just hasn't quite got there. This time around, he was punished for it, and it was just as simple as that. He didn't do an awful lot wrong, really. Like he had a couple of putts where he was actually quite unfortunate. Could have gone a completely different way at one point. I never felt like he'd really played himself out of it. It's just that he didn't play himself into it on Sunday. It was as simple as that. He just didn't show what we know Houghton Lee can show. This is a guy that's beaten Rory McIlroy and Thomas Pieters. Lost in playoffs, won at his golf course to Kiradech in 2015, and then to Justin Rose as well. So he's been really in the mix. He's been third in the Open Championship. He's been halfway leader at the PGA Championship. He's a guy that I think it's just we expect so much more from him, and especially when you get really exciting numbers about him, like 50, 60, 70, 80, 100, whatever he was. Like that's always really exciting. It's tougher, Sky, when he's this price, but he's this price for a reason. Like as much as we talked about you talked about the pressure there, he does win in China. He's won 3 times on the PGA Tour in China. He's won the Volvo China Open at a different golf course. He's won the Nanshan China Masters on the Asian Tour as well. Like when he comes home, he delivers. So that at the end of the day, the way he's playing and his history in his home country suggests that he's worth a bet. I just felt like it got too short in the end.
Yeah, I think it's picking between him and Bairstow. I just lean Hao Tong, even that when they hit the same kind of similar formulas, and they keep popping from 36 to 54 first round leaders. Irons doing probably better for Hao Tong than they were Bairstow. It's just that's a question of how do you land on the price, and ultimately I am okay there. You go with a course winner here in the similar type of range. Best number Hao Tong stateside was 35. I think your selection is 28 here in the States. But where are you landing off the top?
Yeah, so I'm going with Bernd Wiesberger, and I think we've done this already this season, Sky. Right? Like I kept saying that he was going to play himself into contention at some point. He's far too good of a golfer, and it's going to happen. and it hasn't yet, which is one thing you would say. Like, as much time sitting there talking about, Soderbergh being too short, Houghton Lee being too short. Leesburg is only a couple of points bigger, and isn't getting contention. With that being said, he's playing really well, and after a slow start last week, he finished inside the top 25 again. That's the fourth time he's done that in 6 starts since returning from Liv. So he's really been consistent. He's top 12 in approach and tees green last week. He's been 4th and 1st in approach and tees green, respectively, in the last 15 weeks. So the ball striking is there for Wiesberg. We know he needs to find a putting stroke. I just think the quality he has returned to a golf course that we know he's won on, where he beat Tommy Fleetwood in a playoff, we should be really encouraged. So I'm willing to give him a shot at these odds once more, and it's here. And then if he doesn't deliver again this time around, like he doesn't even get him. The trouble is, at the moment, we haven't even seen how he holds up in contention right now because he hasn't got there. That's the concern, is that he's not even quite getting there. So I want to see if he's in the mix on Saturday or Sunday, how he reacts to that again, because it's been, since 2021 since he won, right? So I have all the confidence in the world that when we see him in contention again, he's going to deliver, which is why I'm betting at 28-1. If he then really falters, then we might have to start waiting until he gets out to the kind of 40, 50 to 1 range again.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting thing to see him there, because I would agree with you. I would be on board with seeing him at top of the leaderboard, thinking he can win every time, especially in a field like this. So,
like of those people, of those 6 players, so Soderbergh, Smith, McKibben, Paul, Houghton, Lee, and Wiesberg, like, I mean, I'm not just saying this because we're the 2 people. I would trust Lee and Wiesberg are the most in contention, right? And that's based on winning records. Okay, Smith's kind of coming up behind them, and McKibben's won early. But like, we know Soderbergh struggles. We know Yannick Paul's struggling. Like, I trust those 2 guys the most. It's just Houghton hasn't shown it so far since being in contention, and Wiesberg just hasn't got in contention. So I think you're probably in the same mold. If Lee doesn't do it this week, maybe we kind of pause on him for a little bit, and I'll certainly be the same with Wiesberg. Like, I want to see him in contention again.
Yep. Totally agree. As we go on the selection, you said you were a little bit on the fence of the one that price is probably dwindling overall, because if you look at just a straight up form type of sheet, and then you match that with course history. I mean, Alexander Levay, we talked about at the top of the show, it fits the mold, 100%. Now that form is coming by way of the Challenge Tour, last 4 times out, 7th, 4th, 2nd, and 9th for him, 29th in his last DP World Tour appearance, did have a top 10 in the fall. If you do recall, on the PGA Tour last year at the Barbasol, he had a top 10, and that's pretty much all that he had done, outside of, a 2022 where he was pretty much hurt for the entire year. 2021, 2020 was quite painful for him overall. This is his first year with multiple top 5 finishes since 2019. But man, the way I look at him back in his previous day was power. If he got hot and matched that with a putter like he did in 2017 for a win, 2018 picked up another win. He was just a golfer. I mean, for a long time, you just thought of as a quintessential ball striker that could take down any field. And those life is starting to come back a little bit. And it still amazes me his age. He is young. He is not like he's 33, I believe, right? And you look at him like that's just so much left in the tank for the upside standpoint. If he's coming back to the way he used to play at a course he relished, 45s for him. I mean, there might have been 65s, I think, at Open. I'm cool with the 45s each way out to 6 places. I just really love him at this spot.
Yeah, he's a guy that's been affected badly by SEO since the morning show launched on Apple TV, because you've got Alex Levy, the news presenter, on there. But Jennifer Aniston, right? But like, it's I believe when it was the Barbasol Championship, didn't we talk about him that week?
Yes, I think you might have even tipped him, or at minimum, we talked about him.
Yeah, like, I mean, it was because he'd made like 4 straight cuts on the DP World Tour, and we were like, look, this is a guy that we know can peak at any time, and he finished 10th, right? 20th when he came back to France. Well, my only pause, I mean, look, he's only 33 to 1 over here, generally speaking. With the added places in England, so that's why I kind of paused him a little bit. At the 50 to 1 that you can get, I think he's probably good enough value. Like, that was where I kind of expected him to be coming into the week. This is a guy, look, 7th, 4th, 2nd, and 9th his last 4 starts. The argument is it too lower form? Like, is Challenge Tour enough? I think it probably is in this type of field. It's not the strongest field in the world. He was 29th in the Johnson Workwear. He was 16th in the STC. So it's been good. He was 8th in the Australian Open towards the end of the season. So it's form with plenty of substance, right? So I do think there's a lot of value to him. I do see why he's popular. And, 1st, 4th, and 8th at this golf course, another top 25 as well. Really hard to ignore. So completely get it. It's just that his price is coming in a bit too short for me.
Sticking on the Challenge Tour for just a second, we're nearing, I guess, early on in the season, 1 win away from Neergaard Peterson for making his Battlefield promotion, 3 wins. Wilco definitely has the Mansell in him, doesn't he? Did you see that back 9?
I didn't see it, but I know what you're referencing to.
Yeah, he was 3. I think he was 3 clear with
yeah.
with like 4 to go or something like that. Man, and we've been tough on Wilco at short prices, so I'll be curious if he can kick on, because you'd love to see him on some of these big boy courses on the DP World Tour that we get on a consistency standpoint, and all the talent can be there for Neergaard Peterson. I mean, he was an amateur last year still, right? He graduated last year and has just kicked on right away. So I'm excited for what we could get early on from a Challenge Tour grad. I think I'm up again here 3 times for me early on. But the one golfer one of the golfers, when you think of an American who's traveled around the type of world and played and cut his teeth on different tours and won and had success, there's a few names that come to mind, right? You think of Brooks kind of doing that path, Uline doing that path, John Catlin doing that path. Kurt Kitayama was somebody who also did it. So now we come to this part of the world where not necessarily China's success is needed, but playing in Asia isn't a bad thing to prepare yourself for this. And we finally started to see a return to form before the break from Johannes Veerman, somebody who, winner, I think a 2-time winner, right, in the last couple of years. No, 1-time winner in 2021 for us, multiple top 5s around. Then he had won that Czech Masters after making the cut at the Open Championship. But you just thought of a big ballpark where he could play well with his driver, can continue that hot irons, and then he has paired that so far this year in 2024 with a really strong putter. Somebody like him competing the way he did at the Hero Indian Open, where he led the field in approach, like, it just drew some eyeballs my way at a course like this, which should really play into his favor. You can find him 50s here with 6th place each way. That's kind of my pick of the litter in the mid-range too with Levy.
Yeah, like you're never gonna have to convince me to pick Johannes Veerman, right? Like, as a player that I do like being on. Not really sure why he didn't come out. I think just because I kind of skipped this range overall once I saw sort of Levy's price.
He's made every cut in 2024. Has not missed a cut. He's worst finished T54, multiple top 20s. Finally broke through the T2 at the Hero.
He's that kind of lesser version of Soderberg at the moment, right? That you just trust to give you a run and you just see what the peak performance is. And it was 2nd at the Indian Open, so if he follows in Soderberg's path, then he's going to be in contention again this week, right? So, as you pointed to, the fact that he's kind of got that Asian form and the I don't know, like, motion to go there is really important. So yeah, I like Vivian a lot.
Mm-hmm. All right, I think it is back to you a little bit more down the board.
Yeah, so I'm coming with Jats Krojcevic, who he's now 80 to 1. He was 90 to 1 when we were sort of coming onto the show here. But he's just a player that's improved, right? Like, he's a player that for the longest time really did struggle to kind of win, even at home. And then all of a sudden he wins a couple of times last year, makes it sort of 3 Sunshine Tour wins, and you think, okay, this is a guy that is suddenly, improving. And that's the most important thing. He'd won in 2016, struggled, and then he wins on the Sunshine Tour in August, and then backs up a couple of weeks later on the Challenge Tour winning the Dormy Open. And it's a player that, in 2021 he had 5 top 10s on the DP World Tour, and that's pretty solid. So I think I think he's an improving golfer. You factor in the fact that he is improving, or at least showing that he's more capable of winning than he was before. So the fact that he was 11th here on his only start, he wasn't in good form coming into that either. And then you look at kind of what he's doing this season, and again, it's a player that's just not missing cuts, right? 19th on the Sunshine Tour, 53rd in Bahrain, 27th at the Qatar Masters. Nothing, massively to shout about, but then 11th at the Kenya Open, 17th at the Johnson Workwear, he was 7th after 54 holes, and then he finishes 3rd at the Limpopo Championship again on the Sunshine Tour. Last week, 12th going into the weekend, really solid with his ball striking. That's the main thing, right? Like he was so good, tees, green and approach. And I just think that was enough for me when you're looking at a player that, has finished 10th in approach last week. I think he was even better, maybe even in tee to green. 5th in tee to green. I think for me, the way he's playing, the way he kind of leveled up in 2023 suggests to me that returning to China looks a good time for Kroitzle.
Yeah, and that style of game is kind of what I envision him as. So could totally see that. 80s here in the States as well. For Kreutzwitz. For me, the immediately upon not even need to open the odds because they don't price this guy much lower than what they would here this week. I was absolutely running to the window to bet Ivan Quintero Gutierrez. If you look at what he's done since kind of us being intrigued by him at the Johnson Workwear, right? When he finished T6, first round leader there, Matsu Kenya Open, where he has a birdie fest and kind of just played pretty consistent there. Porsche had came in week after for him at opened and closed with decent rounds, sandwiched by some 73s. But last week, the closing 54 holes for him, 66, 64, 68. He was 83rd after the first round. Still, of course, finished 5 short of Katsuagawa. But, if you look at his game and the way that this could play out, and I think my selections get a little bit more speculative on different ways it could play out. We have seen power hitters win here. My next selection will be the one who did that with that style of game. And ICG is somebody who hits it a mile, and he's starting to show up with a little bit more around the green game play. If he had anything besides opening round, in which he did, I think we really could have found, a chance at a win for him. And then you stack that up with 2 win chances in 3 events, course fit, overall, I think 90-1, absolutely.
Yeah, the only thing that slightly concerned me was his actual approach play last week. Like his team screen game was really good, but his approach play wasn't.
Right.
But that's it points to your skill set, right? Like, and at the end of the day, like we've said, that there might be a little bit more room off the tee here, might be favouring that kind of long style of game. Then absolutely, and I was really hoping you were going to bring him up because he's a player that you've mentioned a couple of times, as you referenced there, first round leader recently, and I just again. We say this a lot, but like an improving golfer, like he's rounding into a little bit of consistency, and he's 4 or 5 made cuts in a row now, with a couple of really good finishes in there. You don't tend to ignore that. I think it's worth doing. So I can get on board with Ivan Quintero.
And I just wonder, this is me not, fully trusting all of the stats that we get in a combined field, right? I think 100 of the 140 golfers gave strokes gained data last week. So you get some of those that played really well from the Japan Tour not having the strokes gained. He was middling for greens in regulation. You imagine someone who led the field in off the tee being middle of the pack for greens in regulation probably does lead to a poor approach game because he has so many opportunities. The other one that I thought played similar last week that's at a much shorter price is Del Rey, who kind of has that similar type of game, really good off the tee, doesn't pair it normally with the irons, but maybe can chip quite well. So I just think that's kind of triple the price there for him. So that's kind of where I land there. And if I pair it,
It also says that he led the approach. He led the fielding approach on Saturday. So yeah.
Okay.
So like he was terrible for 3 days. He was really bad on Sunday with his approach, but for the Saturday. And to your point, like Sky, before you go into the next bit, like I think we need to be a little bit hesitant. I don't know if strokes gain needs a little bit of a refresh, like in general. And I think it's an overarching conversation, right? One that you're probably better suited to give than I am. But the most extreme scenario, right? Scotty Scheffler is whatever he is, 90th in strokes gained putting. He leads the tour in putting average. Like, what really matters? The fact that he passes up more opportunities than he should, or the fact that actually he's still the best at getting it in the hole in the shortest amount of putts, right? Like Cantero, like if he's getting punished because he is 5 foot further away than he should be based on where he was in the field, based in the fairway, but he keeps putting himself in the fairway and eventually he will go a little bit closer. Like, we do have to be a little bit hesitant on that. So that would be the one thing I would say, is that, to your point, whilst I'm sort of saying the reason I was a bit concerned is the strokes gained approach numbers. Like, I do think we have to be a little bit careful with the data.
Yeah, I think I've learned through the years that modeling down to, the millimeter of the iron approach shot buckets and this and that, things that I loved to get so into the weeds of, where probably the most predictable thing is you just zoom out and try to predict what they're going to score in the round. You know what I mean? Like, strokes gained total is as good as it gets. And obviously the most trustworthy thing that we can count on. There's course fit and there's things that we can better predict if we feel trustworthy of the data. But yeah, then there's a lot of things on just trying to predict who's going to put the ball in the hole in the least amount of strokes. And that was the last time they teed it up at this golf course. That was Surat Suwannaratt. Oh, that's pretty good. That's
pretty good. I'm not going to try and better that.
Suwannaratt. Oh yeah, I like that. So Suwannaratt, he was so far, I guess, in the 4 events. What I liked about him compared to others in this range, I don't think it is an anomaly that you're saying that the China Tour is probably weaker than the Japanese Golf Tour. I think that's super fair to say. It's also fair to say probably the best tour right now over there is the Asian Tour, right? So I think coming into this year with 3 top 25s on the Asian Tour, another made cut so far for him, is something that I feel pretty confident compared to maybe, I don't know, top 10s or top 5s on the overall China Tour. Like, that's probably the equivalent. And then you look at him through the year. So he's 26 years old. If you look at kind of his career summary, does have 3 wins. Knocked one off in 23, knocked one off in 2022 for him. And 2022 was really the best year he's had overall. And if you say those best wins, he won the Indonesian Masters, competed on the Korean Tour, was strong on the Thailand Tour. He's played kind of in this neck of the woods quite a bit. And then he was the winner last year at this course at the China Open. And what's intriguing when I say the course fit, he led that field, or was top 5 in that field in distance, and was really, really strong with his putter. His iron game was still strong in order to win, but he was led by power and short game, which has seen some success at this course through the years compared to the real long shot we're going to be on. It's kind of a little bit of a different dynamic, but if I just looked into his type of form, and then you look at his last time out, he has been driving the ball really, really well. I mean, distance wise, he was number 1 in the field in Oman his last time out. His distance is very strong, top of the board every single time. Irons flash the last time out, seems to have kept up that short game overall. So I just think that type of form, it's nothing like to write home about, right? I mean, 4 made cuts basically on the Asian Tour. But if it's anywhere somewhat equivalent to the DP World Tour, I think we would read into his stats a little bit more, line him up for a strong course fit who has played a ton of golf in this area of the world and competed well. And then you pair that with 150 to 1. That's ultimately kind of how I got to him as a selection.
And also the Asian Tour, don't forget, I mean, obviously your overarching point is that Asian Tour form is probably a better indicator than China Tour form, right? Like, that's the crux of the point. But also the Asian Tour form is probably the strongest it's ever been, because we've got the live guys playing those international series events, we've got Saudi Open, etc. Like, you're getting better quality fields more often than not. Like, before, where you were getting the odd player go over and play in Asia, you might get a Lee Westwood go over or whatever. You're getting quality players like that go over in 4, 5, 6, in bunches, right? Like, I mean, David Puig has been great, like on the Asian tour, right? So you're getting better players. John Catlin, the obvious example, right? So you're getting better class field. So the fact that he's gone 22nd, 14th, 34th, and 17th in 4 starts is encouraging. And look, it's whether he's ready to win again, I don't know, but he's won at the golf course, and that's all we can ask.
Yes, 100%. And I am throwing in one more selection before we get to our final one. I realized as I was going through, did not land on it on our list, but I wanted to make sure to walk through. So diving through the China tour and getting through it. So they've played, I think, just once so far in 2024. That was won by just the fact that Lloyd Jefferson is a name that's, doing pretty well. He's from the Philippines. He won that first event of the year. He was second on the Abema Tour, which I believe is the feeder to I think it's the feeder to the Japan Golf Tour, right? So he was first and second there. But I am intrigued by the golfer who finished second at that event at just 16 years old. So we saw the 15-year-old Miles Russell finish top 25 here on the Corn Ferry Tour recently. So if I pull up Yanhan Zhu, so sometimes when you're doing your research, make sure the names are going to be forward in others, backwards in others. Believe the first name when we read it in America is Yanhan Zhu, reverse when you come in China. But when you look at him, he has finished second and then first in his last 2 Chinese golf tour events, second being to kick off the year and then first being to close out last year. And then he had reached 42nd in the Wagger overall. So, when I looked at some of his stateside events, like, I think the USAM he had played in was like, okay, nothing too great, but he had really ripped up the junior golf tour. And then previously they have a additional tour in China. I'm trying to pull it up as we go here. I was trying to look through it, but it's pretty difficult to find any type of research on it. It is called, it's a short label, the CLPGQ, and then they go through these different cities and their different series. Beijing, Xiamen, Tianjin, like they have all these different series that they play in it. And he went 4th, 5th, 3rd, 1st, 2nd, 4th, 1st, 5th in a stretch of a golf last summer on this tour. Now, I don't, like I said, I really couldn't find the details on the site. It's not really, I don't think it's even in his OWGR. When you looked through those events, you can just kind of see how he's played on the China tour. But there's some, especially at some of these like younger amateurs that are coming pro here, I think have had a lot of experience on a pro circuit. So when I look at that and see that he's also won on the bigger China tour at 16 years old, that's a ton to kind of write home about. So I mean, the longest odds when you look at him is 250 with a 6th place each way. So I'm absolutely taking a shot at somebody at those odds with that pedigree who has the world ahead of them still in the game of golf.
There you go, into the weeds of Chinese golfers, right? That's what we love to see. Look, as I mentioned at the top of the show, right, like doing this level of research would have paid off massively last week in Japan. There were so many people that were in contention in the mix, more so than ever before on this type of tour. So I think it's really valuable that people listen to that segment there. I don't have too much to add other than what you said. I thought you might have liked Joel Gearbach in this range, type of player.
Yeah.
I just wonder if it might be a bit too big, the golf course for him. In terms, well, not too big, but just a different type of player might win it. So instead of going there, I went with Jong Won Ko, who 3 top 11 finishes in 2024, and 2 of those been his last 2 starts at the Indian Open and the ISPS Hander last week. I'm just really encouraged by what he's doing. This is a guy that pretty sure, Sky, like he's pretty lengthy off the tee, right? So it's actually really encouraging that he's been 9th at the Kenya Open, 5th at the Indian Open, and 11th last week on courses where actually accuracy matters. 265s last week. Really good sign. So I just think he's playing well. He doesn't have the pedigree of winning that we know, because he didn't do it on Challenge Tour. But I just think, 90-1 with the form he's in. I mean, 9th miscut, 46th miscut, 5th, 11th. If he makes the weekend, he's pretty much putting himself in the mix, right? And I'm comfortable thinking that after a 5th and 11th place finishes the last 2 starts, he can get there. So I'm interested to see what John Wonko does at the weekend.
Yeah, that was another one that was just off the list of mine. And he has been a golfer who I think I misprofiled his game overall. It definitely has been strong off the tee. We've seen him hit it well and long. So yeah, this could definitely be a better fit compared, and kind of like I liked Ivan Quintero doing well at the Metro Kenya Open, just like that too. 2 golfers I probably didn't see the best fit, and even then last week too. So overall, absolutely. And sorry to jump a little early on the 250 Jan Hanzu because I got excited there.
No. You carry on. I don't want to break the thought process. Next one for me, Brandon Stone, who, Scott, we've mentioned him a couple of times now, I think this year and probably last year as well, as just a player that, a little bit like Alex Levy, I guess, in the sense that we just know at their very best, they're very capable of winning. This is Stone, who's won 2 of them were in South Africa at home, but he also won it was either the Scottish Open or Dunhill Links, but he won it by like 4 strokes against Eddie Pepperell. A really solid win. And he just seems to be coming back into form in 2023, didn't he? He finished 8th at the Big Green Egg, 8th at the Swiss Challenge. And then he started this season 4th at the Ras Al Khaimah, missed 2 cuts, went home, finished 6th in the Dimension Data Pro-Am, and then missed 4 cuts again. Then you think, okay, maybe that was just a little bit of a flash in the plan, good player that's coming back to form. But no, he finished 37th at the Indian Open and 18th at the ISPS Hander last week. And, those 2 things really encouraged me. He hit the ball nicely last week, 15th in approach, 20th in tee to green. I know we're slightly dubious about the kind of numbers, but that's what we've got to go with at the moment. And, on his debut here in Shenzhen International, he finished 2nd. He finished 2nd in that, and then 45th the second year when he was coming back, but he was actually 15th after 3 rounds because he shot a Saturday 64 after a slow start. So just by what he's shown in recent weeks, which is making some cuts after a tough run, and just his profile of finishing 2nd here on his debut, I really do think we should look at Brandon Stone again. He's a player that, 3-time winner on the tour. Could have been 4. He lost to Sami Malamaki in Oman, right? So you never want to say what could people have, because I think like Siwoo Kim or someone like that's got like 5 playoff losses or something. They'd be a very different career if they'd won them all. But it is, Scottish Open winner by 4 strokes, Alfred Dunhill winner by 6 strokes, beat Bezaden out at the SA Open in 2016 by a couple of strokes as well. This is a guy that at his very best is very capable. Once he gets in front, seems to run with it. Is he ready to win again? Don't know. That will be answered if he gets himself into contention. But definitely the talent's there, and we know the course is there because he finished 2nd in the past.
Yeah, totally. And we had some, pre-show back and forth kind of on Stone, and I think we just do a good job of trying to be early on those guys. Basically, what we're trying to do, right? And then our questions become, who's the next wave we're trying to be early on, or do you ride them to the prices of Haotong that they are this week, right? Stone does this for 2 more weeks. He's 50s. We know that, So absolutely there. We got one more together. Tom is just loving down the board these days. I mean, it's his favorite. And I was impressed last week by you, if you looked at it, I mean, you bet him first round leader as well. So Friday was Thursday. Would have been the low round of the day for Hitachi.
He got beat actually by another guy. I think it was Sato, who shot 62. But he shot 63 on Friday. It was so disappointing that I guess he just needed an early tee time. I should have known that. But yeah, Takahiro was great. It was a fun ride. It was really disappointing after round 1 to basically be out of shot of winning. Because I did truly believe, like he like someone asked me, like, do you think he can actually win? I was like, look, I wouldn't bet him if I didn't think he had 0 chance. And look, you never expect a 750 to 1 shot just come through and win with ease. But The profile was there, and he's definitely a player I'm going to follow. And this is a guy that we're going to come on to here. This guy who you have been following for a good part of the season.
Yeah, Guxin Chen, right? He's somebody who I would say fearful of the form in a way that you would have liked a little bit more, but we have seen a couple pops so far in the year. ISPS last week didn't really go his way too much. I mean, I think he missed the cut by a good chunk. 68 on Friday was decent. No complaints with it. He had missed because he pops over the Asian tour in between, you know, a top 20 on the Abema tour before that. But the real standout was that T17 for him, where he had a 64 on Friday and a 66 on Saturday at the Johnson Workwear. But really, the profile of what we saw was what he kind of basically did to earn this tour: 2 wins on the Asian Development Tour in 2022, and then in 2023, just a strong Chinese tour season where 6 or 5 top fives, another top 10, a ton of top 20s that earned him the Order of Merit win. And his T2 last year at the Volvo China Open really should have been a victory. I believe he blew a 3 or 4 shot lead going into the final round. Sawanarat, who had won, I think outscored him by 9 strokes on Sunday alone, and he was still able to finish in second. So a big lead had been blown. The year prior, Chen had finished third at this event, or not, just kidding, 2021. That year, he also had won 2 events. He finished third on the China Tour, and he's 20 years old, right? I just kind of went into a big spiel on somebody who's 16, maturing through a few professional wins through the years, I think is a lot of love. We had a similar just kind of strength in what we believed Manu Gandis had when we went back to the Hero Indian Open. And I wouldn't say his year had really been all that much. I mean, it definitely had been better, but not to that degree. I mean, it was miscuts on the Challenge Tour leading into the Hero Indian Open, PGA Tour of India playing decent in 2024. So if we put Guxin Chen back on the China Tour for probably a good bit of time, I'm sure we'd see him back to being the best player on that tour. So 400 to 1 for that bet. That's kind of my reasoning there. Yourself?
It's exactly the same, Sky. And Manu Gandas is exactly the player that you want to profile, right? Like, he had missed the cut in Delhi, which is in India, right? The Delhi Challenge, but he'd missed the cut there, even though it was back at home, and that was on Challenge Tour. He'd been 22nd the week before, and then goes and finishes 11th at the Hero Indian Open in this strength of field, right? Yes, he had been very consistent in India. Yes, he'd won in India early in February as well. But as you said, if Guxin Chen had the opportunity to play it, I think he'd be doing the same thing. And if you'd seen that, if you'd have seen, because there was plenty of people on Manu Gandas that week when he was 11th at the Indian Open, if you'd have seen a win and a fifth in China before coming into this guy would be better, for sure. You are taking a chance because you just don't know whether he's playing well or not, because he's not playing well at this level yet. I'm just so willing to go to the well with him at 400 to 1. It's not like we're trying to take a guy. We're not basing it on the fact he's finished second and third on the golf course over the last 2 years, so we'll back him at 50 to 1. He's 400 to 1 for a reason. There's nothing like going home. You see it all the time with these guys, like the South African players. We mentioned Kreuzvik and Stone. They always go home and play the Sunshine Tour, get a little bit of confidence, and then it doesn't necessarily work out when it gets back to the DP World Tour. Now, the one thing that kind of encourages me with Chen on the DP World Tour this season is where he's made the cut. So Malaysia in Asia, right? That's always going to help. Then he finishes 7th at the Johnson Workwear, as you referenced, 2 really good rounds there. He was the first round leader in that Novell Cup. It's the times where he's gone back to somewhere where you feel like he should be comfortable. He's done well, and then to your point last week, he improved from 73 in round 1 to 68 in round 2, and he did the same in Saudi the week before that, 76 to 68. He seems to be able to just. I'd love to have seen him play well at the Singapore Open or Macau on the International Series or something, just to get a real little bit of confidence. But look, it is the number play at the end of the day. I do believe he's a better player than he's showing. He was, I think he was kind of in the mix after round one in Bahrain. I think he was like kind of 13th after round one and shot really bad for second round. 20 years old, away from home, probably doesn't speak any languages that really translate very well to making friends on the DP World Tour. It's going to be tough, right? He can't pass up the opportunities, but by the same token, he's not comfortable yet. So let's hope that getting home, playing on golf course, he's finished second and third out his last two starts, returns to form. I'm really happy to take him at 4 this morning.
Yeah, I absolutely am. I'm trying to do some live research of the tour in which we had. So I think it is a combination series in China between the CGA, the China Golf Association, and the CLPGA, which is the ladies' side. I believe they play a combo of stroke play so far of it. Now, if I look at a recent winner, 73, 70, 67 of it. So some scores, but there's some scores in the 80s down the board, two smaller fields. So, because there is another golfer, if I'm just going to rip through kind of some of the research that I saw, rounds out our selections. I have 7, you had 5 there. Zikin Zhou, 18 years old. I don't have any, well, I think I have some pro. There's no pro events so far this year. He did make the cut in this event in 2019. So he made this cut as he's 18. So 2019, he made this cut as a 13-year-old at this course. Super, super impressive. He is an amateur still. He played on the China Golf Tour a little bit through the years. He did win an event in 2022. He had a T4 earlier, or I guess to close out last year. He missed a cut in the Asian event too in the Hong Kong Open. So he's played a little bit, 18 years old there. My favorite bit of research that I found, pull this up. This just gave me a good chuckle here. So Zihao Jin. So if I just look, I mean, my basic research, right? They played one event, okay? You look at the guys who played well in the one event, right? That's kind of what even happened last week for the guys in Japan to play well. So Zihao Jin, I believe he finished 4th or in that event last week. So I went and looked. He had won, he went to San Diego State. He had won the California State Open in 2022, which from the outlaw days and looking through that, winning a state open is a pretty big deal, especially in California. People come, those are one of the bigger ones. And this was the favorite tidbit. So Rico Hoey did play in that field. He finished 5th. So he beat out Rico Hoey, a guy who I have bet religiously on the PGA Tour this year. But my favorite, 54-hole leader, Michael Block. He beat out Michael Block on Sunday. Blocky shot a 74. Zihao Jin shot a 66 to win by 2. Beat him by 8 on Sunday for victory. So Blocky was a little nervous with Zihao kind of on his heels there. So I thought that was incredibly hilarious to find.
Suggesting that a major winner in waiting, right? If you can beat Blocky on a Sunday in a mini tour event, then you're ready to go. Tongue in cheek, of course, but it's form that's definitely shown up, especially Rico Hoey. Like, he's like my first round leader hero at the moment. He's just the guy I put in every week for that. So yeah, I mean, look, anything you can do to support a claim of a player like that, especially when they're making cuts at 13 years of age. I still think about Graham Lang making it at the Masters. Was he 13 or 14? I think he was.
He was 14, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And didn't they assess him a penalty as well that week, which is just really grim. And he still made the cut. So, like, these Asian Tour, China, Japan, Korea players just start so early, and they're pro for such a long time, right? Especially in the ladies' game, like they're winning tournaments right at 13 and 14. So, it's such a different kettle of fish, and you see a player that's 30. Like, I think that's why people came up and sort of like Takahiro Hitachi's. I'm like, if you're 13, you haven't won something in Japan yet. Like, you're probably not very good. Like, it's like you've had probably 17 years to have a go at it. But no, I mean, look, there's plenty of research there. I do think after last week, you're vindicated in looking down this kind of path. I do think I don't think we're going to see 5 Chinese players in the top 10 this week like we did last week. But if we get one of them and it's Gutsing Chen, I'll be delighted.
Yeah, I mean, I bet 3 of them, so I'll just settle for 3. All right.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be great. Yeah, 3 out of 10 is good, isn't it? So,
Perfect. Cool. So I will close this out here. I'll make sure if you're an audio listener, you can find us on Daily Fantasy Sports Picks and Bets, the mix feed. Appreciate all the love, feedback that we get. You can find me at Twitter at Skyhook DFS. You can find Tom at Tom Jacobs 93. Again, we enter another, I think it's 3 weeks off. I think we have a break, PGA Championship, and then the event from there on. So you see us again in a few weeks for the DP World Tour. But again, we love the comments, liking, subscribing goes a long way for us at Mayo Media Network. Tom, if you want to go through your selections.
yeah, just before I do that, like the support has been really great. Like I know that that's sort of like a message that we put in, week in, week out to kind of talk about the auto listeners and the support, right? But it has been great. Like some of the comments we see regularly on YouTube, there's the same people in there each week, and we had some really good like comments last week, like of people just saying like it's their favorite hour of the week and things like that. Listen to it, and it goes a long way. Like it might not mean a lot to you to go and write that as a comment, but it means a lot to us, not just from a algorithm and review point of view, but just for me and Sky to really see that people enjoy us talking about our passion. So it's definitely well received. Without further ado, my betting card: Bernd Wiesberger at 28-1. Jax Kreuzovic now 80-1. John Won Ko at 90-1. Brandon Stone at 110-1 now. And Guxing Chen at 400-1. I'm not going to butcher his name after you've done such a great job of it, but the guy that you put up at hundreds 1-1 here last year is probably one that I think I'd find difficult to watch win if I wasn't on it.
Fair. So I'm on Haotong, 35-1. Alexander Levay, 45. Johannes Veerman, 50. Ivan Quintero Gutierrez, 90. Surat Suwarat, 150s. Yanhao Zhu, ZHOU, if you're looking for the name, 250-1. Guxin Chen, 400-1. Maybe if we get some type of weather or early tee times, those final two could make their mix into a first round leader bet as well. But thank you, Tom. As always, enjoy your little time off that we get leading up into a major. And hopefully we have some of our DP World Tour guys making an impact at Valhalla, because I think that could be a lot of fun for our show. But again, really love the support. I echo exactly what you say, Tom, and we will catch you guys in a few weeks.
Thanks, Guy. Good luck, everyone.